Adding just one rep can kickstart new gains, and it doesn't even have to be frequent. You see, many beginners get used to adding multiple reps a week, so when they gain some experience, then suddenly notice a drop off in progression, they often become impatient, since for the last 1 to 2 years, they were experiencing the complete opposite. Rapid, predictable PRs practically every session. Now, they find themselves lifting the same weights for several weeks in a row. Of course, this situation usually leads to program hopping or thinking that a plateau has been reached and that progress could be faster. However, the reality is that most of the time, progress is as fast as it's going to be. Perhaps it can be slightly optimized for 5 to 50% more gains, but assuming most variables are properly executed, from nutrition to basic programming, the central issue is letting your ego get the best of you and deviating from what is currently actually working, even if yielding slower progress than anticipated. If you trust the program and stick with it, you will eventually have a random workout where that so-called plateau is broken and then momentum returns. Changing the stimulus right before reaching the breaking point is a psychological and physiological mistake because progressive overload doesn't need to be forced. It's actually evidence that hypertrophy has already taken place. This means that if you're already skilled at a particular exercise and neural adaptation sees, then the primary way your numbers will increase is by gaining lean muscle tissue. Of course, most strength athletes incorporate periodization and high specificity training methods to enhance coordination and achieve slightly better pound-for-pound ratios, but this doesn't necessarily contribute towards extra hypertrophy. For the vast majority of lifters, simple double progression is sufficient, assuming they stay patient. And by the way, what I'm saying is even more relevant if your training mostly consists of highly stable, machine-based exercises, since in that case, very few improvements can be attributed to skill or technique. So with these factors in mind, it's important to recognize that slow progress is not truly slow. It's accurate and perfectly normal. In fact, even if we take an extreme approach and add just one rep to give an exercise on a monthly basis, this would still result in significant long-term improvements. This particularly holds true when you're decently strong. What most lifters fail to recognize is that adding +1s on high absolute loads scales differently in 1-rep max calculators. For example, if you can do 4 or 5 times 5 on a squat variation, that's approximately 450 pounds for a single. So if you were to bulk for 5 months and add 1 rep per month, gradually building up to 4 or 5 for 10, that could equate to 540 pounds with a peak. This means that each additional +1 represents a potential absolute strength increase of 20 pounds. Now, if that seems too good to be true, let's consider the possibility of adding just 1 rep every 2 months, which many gym goers would consider to be a plateau. Well, by the end of the year, you would have easily moved up a competitive classification, possibly going from advanced to elite. And the truth is, the strongest lifters don't even experience these kinds of jumps to begin with. So, if you do find yourself in a worst case position where you're adding at least 1 rep every 1 to 2 months, you should still be happy. It's all about big picture thinking. And realistically, many of you will get +1s almost every workout. So what are you stressing about? But even if not, even if my example takes double the time, it still shouldn't be viewed as a problem because you're going to be lifting for life, and this is only a minor setback. You will have a bull market year of gains. Trust what I'm saying here. Alberto Nunez said the same thing. You get these legendary off seasons from time to time. Anyway, to expand further, let's briefly share my recent bench press experience. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll know that I was regularly hitting 315 for 9 reps, and my goal was to reach 10 reps before changing variations. So I repeated this AMRAP set twice a week, and it took me exactly 1 month, or around 8 workouts or so, to add a single repetition. So on a normal day, I get 9 reps, and on a bad day, 8 reps. Always in the same zone, same level of intensity, until one day, I magically added that final rep. Didn't even see it coming. Now, some might think that's terrible progress, but when you plug those numbers into 1-rep max calculators, you'll see that it's a difference between a 405 bench and 420. And let me tell you, those two numbers are drastically different compared to, let's say, going from 185 to 200. Therefore, you shouldn't have a negative mindset just because you feel stalled for a few weeks. Progress is indeed happening, just on a less visible scale. You might notice improvements in bar speed, less grinding during the concentric phase, more controlled negatives, and less bounce out of the hole. Maybe your same rep count is 0.5 RPE less, which still indicates high effort, but is marginally easier. And obviously, you won't go for one more failed rep. So if you record everything and line up your video clips side by side, you'll quickly realize that rep quality has improved despite maintaining the same reps. This is why you can't solely focus on the total numbers in your training log. Always include an auto-regulation note. Movement velocity and execution both matter. And the fact that you can add one big rep means that micro progression was 100% taking place. Not to mention, the stimulus was adequate. So if anything, recovery is what needs prioritization. From there on, progressive overload will naturally happen. So please, don't give up on an exercise too soon, because even in these worst case scenarios, it's not a bad position to be in. In my opinion, real plateaus are long lasting. I'm talking about not seeing any progress for a minimum of 3 months with zero differences. Not one bit. That said, it's also important to note that sometimes one exercise may stall while others, or rather the majority, continue to progress. In this case, by definition, you're not experiencing a plateau. You're just being unrealistically ungrateful. For example, if the main exercise in your push workout, let's say the bench press, isn't improving, but your secondary exercise, whether it be incline bench, overhead press, dip, dumbbell bench, etc., are going up, then you're clearly making gains. Even if your accessories are progressing while your primary work isn't, that's okay. So here's my bold statement. If at least 40% of your exercise selection, which constitutes less than half, is showing a minimum of +1 improvements on a given set, then that's excellent. It's not a plateau. And I would venture to say that most of you are undoubtedly in this situation. And since something is always increasing, it will inevitably raise your strength potential and transform a unknown or known weakness into a strong point, which will then carry you over to other stalled exercises. Eventually, you'll see progress on those as well, and the cycle continues. So, having a winner's mentality means viewing any +1 in your program as a sign that you're doing things right. Even if it's the minority of exercises, you must have faith in the system. You can't be discouraged or selectively choose what you want to accelerate on a non-specialized program. It's just how it is. And progressive overload is not entirely linear. It doesn't scale equally across all exercises. While strength is the main factor, there's also skill, muscular weaknesses, strength curves, and leverages to consider, all of which build upon one another. So by becoming stronger in something, at least one of those variables will be reinforced, allowing you to make progress again in the target primary exercise. Just view all progression as future-proofing yourself, as if your body were a custom PC or a big chain where the links vary in size. You don't want any bottlenecking, right? Your computer will only run as fast and efficiently with longevity if the sum of its parts is balanced. It's like being a pure strength player in RuneScape. Sure, you can hit big, but you often lack accuracy and can be hit back, which affects your XP rates, also known as progression rates. Your total combat level is important, especially as you face stronger enemies. With lifting, you're taking on heavier weights, so you need to be strong everywhere. Whatever you neglect will eventually halt progression, especially with isolation exercises. And they're similar to heavy compounds in the sense that they can be slow to progress on. So if they are improving, you should be ecstatic, because some guys have been curling the same 40-pound dumbbells forever. And the truth is, +1s are essentially what you'll be accumulating here. So get used to it. As Natural Hypertrophy said, if his bench press isn't going up, but his skull crushers are, then there's no need to worry. Long term, he won't have lockout problems or torso dominance, and progression is still occurring on some level. The bench will go up when it needs to, and when it does, it's going to stay there, since you didn't have to peak, plus the corresponding muscles are strong. You got bigger, therefore you got stronger, not necessarily the other way around. Don't let the summer heat slow you down. Barbell Apparel is here to keep your training on track with up to 30% off their entire line of performance-driven clothing. Their lightweight and durable fabrics are engineered to keep you cold and performing at your highest level. Just like Navy SEAL Chad Wright, who just ran a mind-blowing 250-mile race in Barbell's ultralight gear. Join Barbell's community of athletes who make no excuses and settle for nothing less than the best. Backed by a 365-day, no questions asked guarantee, Barbell's training gear and casual wear is built to power whatever your workouts, workdays, and adventures demand. In addition, a single repetition can completely change your intensity threshold. If the hypertrophy rep range is 5 to 30, then getting only 4 reps falls into a different bracket, which is probably more beneficial for strength development. On the other hand, exceeding 30 reps becomes more endurance-based, which has implications, especially in a calisthenics program where some exercises can easily be performed for higher reps. In such cases, it becomes important to modify your leverages to put yourself back into an efficient zone. Likewise, if your goal is pure mass and we know that the last 5 effective reps are most growth promoting, then doing only 4 reps might not provide enough stimulation. Here, you will need to do an additional set or perform back offsets instead of maintaining the same load. However, if you could manage just 1 more rep, then there's no need to change anything. You can continue with basic double progression, not even dynamic, until you reach the 8 to 10 rep range, which can take months. After that, you increase the weight, which will usually be a massive jump. So just take your time, as I'm doing with the anterior delt press. Currently, I'm pressing 225 for 5, and I'm gonna add 1 rep at a time until I can hit 10 reps. It might take the entire year, but so what? I can probably max out at 250 right now, but after doubling my rep count, who knows what's possible? 285, 300 may very well be within reach by simply adding 5 reps. Just think about that for a second. If I were to add 1 rep every 3 months, then after a year, that would potentially be a plus 50-pound increase to my 1 rep max, which is almost unheard of in vertical pressing. Most seasoned lifters will gain between 20 and 30 pounds. But if you do the math, that would actually be like adding 3 to 4 reps in a year. So when you look at these radical examples, it becomes exceedingly clear that adding 1 rep is actually a significant achievement, even if it's only once a month, or less than that. We have seen what happens in the real world, where elites are scraping for every single rep. So it's important to realize that these incremental gains add up over time, and some progress is much better than no progress. Besides, what's the alternative? Quitting? Succumbing to bloat maxing when you were so close to overcoming your so-called plateau? Program hopping? Trying some high-risk, high-specificity program that may lead to injury? Jumping on PEDs because you think you hit your fake natural limit? Ego lifting with poor form to artificially boost your numbers? Blaming genetics and falling into a downward spiral of the black pill? All these options are childish coping mechanisms, and that's exactly how losers think. Winners don't stress about slow gains. When they're on the right path, they remain consistent and embrace the whole journey for what it is, through the good and bad. We derive pleasure from every minor PR and remain undisturbed by occasional periods of dullness because beyond the horizon, a tempest of gains is gathering. However, if you seize your efforts, you will miss its impact due to your short-sighted desire for instant gratification. This now mentality doesn't work in the fitness world, and that's why most influencers are insecure juice heads who rely on rented muscles. Don't follow their path and dismiss their misguided beliefs about plateaus. They have little understanding of what slower progress truly entails, as they abandon their natural potential before ever experiencing it. That's the truth. When you start getting +1s is when the journey is just beginning, not ending. Makes sense? With that in mind, everything I said leaned towards the extreme edge of slowness. However, the final message was positive, since objectively, when you break down the numbers over time, the outcomes are desirable. So refrain from complaining when it's evident that there are visible +1s in almost every workout. Based on that alone, you're not experiencing a plateau. So remain committed, trust the process, and avoid comparing yourself to others who aren't on your level. The seemingly minor PRs may not appear significant now, but someday they will. And you will realize that what you once perceived as slow progress was actually quite fast in the grand scheme of things. Present stalls always seem substantial until you encounter a larger one, which will be confirmed by your future self. So be disciplined in the present moment and make the most out of your program until you encounter a genuine wall. That's when you can make the necessary adjustments. Don't rush changes when you're still experiencing sporadic periods of growth, because eventually it won't be random anymore, and your programming will need to be damn near flawless. So appreciate this slow progress and consider yourself fortunate, because many gym bros have remained stagnant for years. You're not like them. So avoid adopting their limited mindset or comparing your high standards to their low standards.
Hey, can you still fight?
What? What kind of question is that? There's nothing you can do to stop me!
If there's anything left to give, I need it now!
Prepare to join this filthy orb in oblivion! If I can't last one lousy minute, then perhaps I deserve to die.
I can't give up.
And this is to go even further beyond! Now that was a close call.
My energy is starting to fade fast, and I don't know if I have anything left to attack with. This doesn't look good.
We both know that you have Saiyan blood running through your veins.
Come on, body! Don't give out on me now!
Who does this fool think he's dealing with? He's beneath me. I'll show him. I'll show them all. I'll reduce this place to ashes.
Father, let me help. You're not strong enough.
Don't make me tell you twice.
Really? The strongest man in the world? Do you think you could take me to him? I want to fight him!
Just wait. I can't be harder to destroy than a planet, right?
What are you?
You haven't figured it out yet.
You're going to have to get over your soft-heartedness. Do it. Forget about your feelings. You have to. They'll get you killed.
This is bad! We can't just stand here, Trunks! We have to help him! But how? It's too soon to do the fusion again. It's worth a try! I can't watch Gohan get killed! He's my brother! I love him!
So, what are you going to do about it?
Guess I'll go super.
This shouldn't be happening. I don't understand. I am a super elite. I'll destroy everything. Everything!
You're one of the ones that beat me before. So you want some more? Okay, but this is going to be the last time.
Please, destroy Frieza. He made me what I am. Don't let him do it to anyone else. Whatever it takes, stop him.
Behind my father's stop!